Alright, so, moving on to our next Patreon request, and this one comes from Tom Hibbert, who asked me to do a variation of another variation. Hang on, this will make sense. So this is One Good Day, My Hero Academia One Good Day. Now, for preference, One Good Day was basically like Marvel and DC heroes. That was kind of like the opposite of the Batman One Bad Day comic one-shots, where it's like heroes having the best day of their lives or something like that. So that was kind of the concept that Hibbert had created earlier. So this is that concept, but with My Hero characters. So yeah. Anyway, so let's get started with this story, with these series of stories, which are Deku, All Might, Shoto Todoroki, Mount Lady, Uraraka, Sue, and Bakugo. So yeah, let's get into it. Well, before we get into it, as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, hope you all enjoy this, and let's get started. So first, we're going to start off with Deku. So Deku's good day is that Deku is more or less having like a depressing moment. Like, he's having this kind of depressing moment for himself, in that he is basically having a existential crisis that all superheroes have at one point in their life. Is like, are we doing enough? Like, that's the big thing, is that he's kind of thinking to himself, are we doing enough for, the human race? Like, we could, we're fighting villains, and at the same time it feels like a never-ending war. What we should be doing is going out there and, curing cancer, or, stopping world hunger or something like that. He's having like that kind of moment where the job is starting to feel really like quite monotonous to him. Like, it just feels like he is just not he is in a rut, and he can't, get over it. Like, he can't, he is just having a depressing moment. But as he's going through that kind of existential crisis, he basically comes across a fire, because he's on the street. He's just kind of walking down the street, like, just having that moment. He's out of costume, and then he sees a fire has broken out in an apartment building, and he's just like, oh shit, no other pro heroes out here in the moment, it's just me. So Deku jumps into action, and he actually finds out that it's an orphanage on fire that caught fire, and he risks his life to save these orphans. And after which, he has that moment of, yeah, we can't do everything. Like, he actually talks to All Might about it. Like, he meets up with All Might again, and he's like, yeah, we can't, I had that moment of, we can't do everything, but we can do good with what we can. So there's your ending for Deku. Now, All Might's story is a little different. All Might's story is that this is set in him, just after losing the power of All for One and just too injured to keep going. And he's actually having a conversation with Deku, like they're having just lunch together, and All Might is just like, they're having a conversation, and Deku's just like, I never, outside of All for One, I never knew that there was a villain who could beat you. I never thought that there would be All for One. You were invincible. Like, you never encountered anything. It just felt like nothing could stop you. And All Might tells him, like, well, there was one time. And he goes into his time as, like, when he was just starting out as, like, he was rising up in the ranks for pro heroes. Like, he was in, like, 5th place. And what happened is that a group of scientists in America were more or less creating their own creation from DNA of other heroes, and they basically called it Ragnarok, which, yes, this is a My Hero version of Doomsday. So Ragnarok breaks out, and it just starts slaughtering his way through several pro heroes in America, and even the Americans are like, "You gotta send us heroes now, man. We are fucked." So several heroes, pro heroes from across the globe, all just show up to fight Ragnarok, and Ragnarok is just slaughtering his way through left and right. And this is the moment where All Might stood alone against the fifth highest pro hero, stood alone against Ragnarok, and the two of them just did battle across the states. Like, they were just tearing up in the ground left and right. It was just a brutal fight between the two of them, but All Might never surrendered. Never once did he, like, stop for it. And for 4 days they did battle until All Might stood tall. And it wasn't... And also, the one thing of why this is a good day for him was was when he learned mortality. Like, that was, like, yeah, he admits to Deku that, like, yeah, I was kind of getting arrogant, and I was essentially letting it get to my head as I was getting close to number 1. But when I was battling that Ragnarok monster, that humbled me. And sometimes as a hero, you need to be humbled. So, there you go. Here's your one good day for All Might. Next up, we have Todoroki. Todoroki's one good day is that he just spends the day with his mother. That's it. Is like, he just spends a quiet day just kind of talking about things, and also, like, she has that moment of, like, is your brother coming? Is your brother coming to see us? And he's just like, yeah, Mom, he got held up. Of course, he already knows that Dabi is his older brother at this point. But at the end of it, Dabi actually sneaks in to, like, say, like, as his mother's asleep, he just leaves a little, he just is like, hey, Mom, sorry I fucked up. Or rather, I'm sorry Dad fucked up. It wasn't your fault. And he just leaves. So there you go, there's Todoroki's. Next up we have Mount Ladies. Mount Ladies is that her good day is that she actually encounters a villain that can actually shrink. So where she grows, he shrinks. It's kind of like an opposite of Giganta versus the Atom. But here, the giant is the good person. And essentially the villain is known as Micro Menace. And Micro Menace is a villain from America who's kind of like, no one really paid attention to me, so I came to Japan like kind of like a pro baseball players, and just decided to join the Japan circuit. So Micro Menace is basically, his whole thing is that he can shrink down, but he still retains his strength. So Mount Lady has to fight a villain that she literally can't see, and the bigger she gets, she's just making more of a mess, and she has to depend on her own wits, and that's like her good day, is that she has to learn that, you know, sex appeal isn't everything, but she does beat this shrinking villain. Anyway, moving on to Uraraka. Uraraka's is that she just spends the day with her parents, and also like has that whole like talking about, you know, what it means to be pro hero, and kind of like learning about the perks of all of it. But the big thing is that she learns that it's not about the perks, it's about, you know, the people. And that's hers. Really nothing I could say there. I couldn't think of anything major. So Tsuyu Asui, Frappies. Frappies is about Frappy goes on a solo mission to find out what is going on with with a series of shipping lanes have been attacked, and several boats have been attacked, and a lot of aquatic-based heroes are going out and finding nothing. In fact, several pro heroes have been found washed up dead. This leads to Frappy going on like a mission on the boat disguised as one of the crewmen to figure out who's doing this. This leads her to encounter a new villain calling himself Mako. And Mako is a shark-themed villain who is capable of swimming at high speeds. Frappy does battle with him. But it turns out Mako is a lot different than you'd think. Mako is like more or less he's attacking these boats because they're part of big pharmaceutical companies, and he's trying to get medicine because he's from Africa, and he's trying to get medicine to people, to people in Africa, because before he got his quirk, his quirk activated, he basically was a doctor, and he was unable to do anything until his quirk fully kicked in and he became, shark-like. So Sue has this kind of conflicting moment because Mako tells Sue right out the gate, some of us may be villainous, but that doesn't mean we're all villains. So Sue has that to chew on. But she does she pretends to just lose and let him take the pharmaceuticals back to his country to start treating the tribes and well as the villages that are just being wrecked by plague. Anyway, so finally we have Bakugos, and Bakugos is about a kid, like him being summoned for like a Make-A-Wish kind of thing, where a young child is a big fan of Bakugo as a hero and wants to see him, and Bakugo's like, fuck that kid, I don't care, like I got more important shit to do, like blow shit up. And then they tell him, the kid has cancer, he's dying, he's like got months, so like he may like have like 3 months max, so it'd mean the world to him if you just came and visited him. And they're like, and Bakugo's like, oh shit, I'm not good with feelings. But his mother forces him, so Katsuki goes and visits the child, and the two of them just have a like Bakugo's trying to like interact with him, but he just doesn't know how to people, especially with kids. But by the end of it, he kind of like has this moment where he's like, damn, this is some heavy shit, I'm feeling. And by the end of it, he like calls Deku by the end of it and goes, hey Deku, I'm having feelings, it's weird. He's like, oh Kacchan, you're being human. He's like, fuck you, bitch! Hangs up. But yeah. So there you go, guys. That is One Good Day My Hero Academia. Once again, I'd like to thank Tom Hibbert for this Patreon request, as well as continued patronage. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.